Hello, everybody. My name is Joerg Hoffmann. I'm the head of investor relations at Wacker Chemie, and I'd like to share with you today the story of our Q1 results and how successful we were in Q1, and we'll talk a little bit about the outlook. So let's get going. You'll find the presentation that I'm using on our website in the investor relations section of our investor relations portal on www.wacker.com. Highlights of the first quarter. We achieved sales of 1.4 billion. This is the highest sales number that we've had in any first quarter in our history. So it shows that there's been a very strong dynamic pushing our results. We achieved an EBITDA of 246 million, despite a number of headwinds that I'll get into in a moment. But the really impressive thing this quarter was the massive net cash flow that we generated of over 130 million, actually leaving us with a net cash position instead of a net debt position. So we literally ran out of debt in the course of the first quarter. We saw a very good cost performance in our chemicals operations, where our restructuring programs took hold and where efficiency and productivity increases improved our performance. But we saw very strong demand from our end markets, which also triggered an unprecedented rise in raw materials and logistical channels. You heard about the traffic jam in the Suez Canal. Those things also didn't help. Polysilicon saw a fascinating dynamic in the first quarter. We were literally sold out. We could wipe the floors in our hubs by now, with demand being very strong, both from the semiconductor side and the advanced solar markets. Sustainability is, as you all know, a very important thing for Wacker. This is how we operate. This is how we look at ourselves and how we judge our own operations. So we've published our UN Global Compact progress report that shows a big list of all things that we do with regards to sustainability. And we actually reached the next selection level for EU funding for a very, very innovative product, the process that uses waste stream CO2 from our vinyl acetate monomer plants to generate methanol, which we can either sell or use in the silicones operations. So watch this space. Let's go into the P&L for the quarter. You see here to the right-hand side is that a lot of happened in mix, but less in price that drove sales. But more impressive, and this is where you see the results of our restructuring and the success of the quarter, is the decline in SG&A, and at the same time, the increase in the gross profit margin. Combined, this meant that the operating result increased by a full 100 million euros in the quarter. Profit before tax increased more than 2.5 times, and EPS is now over 2 euros per share. Let's look at what were the important things in the quarter? Well, we spoke about raw materials, and one of the things that gave us quite a headache in the quarter was the massive acceleration in commodity-priced raw materials that we use as inputs. On the left-hand side, you can see the inputs for the silicones business. Those we were able to essentially fend off with a shift towards higher value specialties. So we're selling more specialties than before in our portfolio. Actually, we've seen substantial growth in that part of the business. But also the business is now operating at capacity limits, which makes it difficult to meet all the demand that we're facing. Demand from many sectors is substantially higher than it was at the last year, but it's also massively higher than it was all through 2019. In some parts of the business, we're seeing order entries that are 60 to 80% higher than what we typically have in those months in prior years. On the right-hand side, you see the inputs for our polymers division. Vinyl acetate monomer, in the wake of the winter storm Uri, saw a massive squeeze as the world's largest acetic acid and VAM plants were out of commission for quite some time. They're all operating now again, but the value chain is still empty. So prices continue to move up, and this is going to mean peak raw material costs for us in the second quarter. We're responding with surcharges to our contracts that allow us to compensate most of those increases, but some of it we'll have to bear ourselves. This is quite a crisis situation there. That said, demand for our products continues to be incredibly strong. And this is true across the board. Hence our guidance. We've actually increased our guidance in the first quarter at the top end of the range. This means we'll end up with some 830 million euros in EBITDA. And we've increased from mid-single digits to low double digits our sales forecast for the year. This is against the backdrop of an expectation of raw material costs that more than double in the course of the year. So there's an implicit raise in the guidance of 130 million, almost a quarter of what we achieved in 2020. Apart from that, CapEx will go up because we have all these opportunities that we need to address, and all the other numbers will follow suit. As I said, this was a very successful quarter for us. We have some challenges ahead of us. The second quarter will see raw material inflation, and we struggle with a very high demand load in our businesses. Pretty much everything that we do in silicones is now on allocation. That's good news for our results. It's not so good news for our customers because we'd like to ship them more, but we'll get there with some time and more CapEx. Our polysilicon business faces a very good second quarter. Prices have increased consistently throughout the first quarter, and we will see the benefits of this materializing in the second quarter. Our biosolutions business waits for the approval of the CureVac vaccine. We're getting ready for this. We've ramped our facilities already so that we should be able to ship very quickly once the approvals are there. So watch the space. This is going to become very interesting. That said, taking a step back and looking at our guidance, it's probably a conservative view of the world. That is because we've raised so fast to so much. We're wary about what happens in the second half of the year, and we'll get there in the course of the second quarter. So please have a look at this. If you have questions with regards to our results or guidance and other things in the business, please feel free to call us at the Investor Relations Department at Wacker Chemie. We're happy to speak to you. Thank you for your interest.
Hi there. Since you watched this company video until the end, I'm guessing you liked the video. And that's probably because we work very hard to create the most engaging and added value content for you. If you're a company and want to find out how we, at Seat 11A, can make a company video with and about you, please email us at content@seat11a.com.